I just interviewed Sam Wiley. I don't know if you guys know Sam Wiley, the billionaire who built Bonanza Steakhouses and a bunch of other big, huge companies. I just interviewed him in Aspen. And I said, Sam, I had 2 hours with Sam Wiley, and I said, Sam, tell me this. Tell me some of your greatest failures. This is what he did. I am not exaggerating this at all. He's sitting right in front of me at the Explorer bookstore in Aspen, Colorado, and he says, greatest failure, Sam? And he goes, and I said, Sam, surely, 40 years in business, you had to fail. And he goes, well, yeah, kind of, Steve. Yeah, well, he says, okay, yeah, well, all right. Now, there was that one time when we lost $100 million in a deal. I said, that would seem like a failure, Sam. He goes, well, yeah, kind of. But see, Steve, here's the thing. Watch this. He said, what we learned when we lost $100 million allowed us the next year to make $4 billion. Ha! So he says, ha! Classic world-class thinking. Can you see why they're so successful? This is just one of the key reasons. Okay, great. That sounds pretty, easy, pretty simple. It's always the question, how do you do it? That's why, I love Brian Tracy so much. Because Brian tells you, here's what it is, and here's exactly how you do it. And he gives you the steps, step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. Tells you exactly how to do it. How do you do it? Well, let me tell you the story. This is my best way to say this. We did a study with Johnson & Johnson. Been a client of mine for a long time. I've spoken all over the world for him and consulted and all that stuff for years. And Johnson & Johnson said the same thing. We get it, Steve. We believe you, all that stuff. Let's study this and find the best way to do it. I'll tell you the short version of the study we did with J&J a few years ago. We found out that world-class beliefs and philosophies is a language. And of course, as you know, the best way to learn a language is through immersion. You want to learn Spanish? Immerse yourself in a Spanish-speaking country or environment. You'll learn Spanish a lot faster. It's how language is learned, they found, is immersion. So here's what we did. We took all these world-class beliefs and philosophies. We put them on a 6-CD album that J&J produced. We had all the salespeople, thousands of salespeople, all over the country in the US, listen to these beliefs. And at first they said, oh, it never worked, it's ridiculous. We just had them listen to them like in the background of their lives when they were selling. Like in the car, like you'd listen to the radio. Month later, 2 months later, they started to repeat the words and the phrases and the beliefs. And you know what happens when you start to repeat things. You start to believe it. It doesn't matter what it is. You could be saying the sky is green, and after a while you'll start to believe the sky is green. It just works that way. It's the way the brain works. And so we had this big success with them, and we created this album. If you want to read more about this or you're interested, the website they created was milliondollarmind.com. Milliondollarmind.com. Here's another way. How about Ilearning Global? Right? Yeah. Let's give them a hand, guys. These guys are great. Yeah. Because here's the problem. 5% of the population speaks world class. Now, there's a lot more in this room, obviously, but when everyone breaks and goes home tomorrow, how do you do it? Turn on Ilearning Global. There's certain ways you can do it. There aren't a million ways to do this, I found, but there are some that really work well, and that's why, one of the reasons, I'm so happy to be with ILG. I want to say this, and I don't want to be negative, because it's a positive thinking deal, right, Polly? This is positive thinking. So I don't want to be negative, but I've learned a lot about this belief process over the years, and I just want to throw out this warning to you, because this, I think, will help you at some point if you do this. I want to say it in a way that is more positive, but before you decide to adopt a belief, be sure you're right. Because if you're wrong, it's going to cost you. Why do speakers all talk about belief? Why do all these speakers all talk about beliefs? Well, we know that whatever you believe, you behave based on your beliefs. So it's the software of behavior. That's why we all say you change the belief, change the behavior. Change the cause, automatically change the effect. It's just a no-brainer. If you're wrong, there's going to be a ripple effect for many years to come. It's going to affect you, it'll affect other people. Make sure you're right. It's easy to be wrong. That's why I mentioned it. If it wasn't, I wouldn't even say it. Let me sort of point this out in an example that everyone here would know. Think of this. If it were 1960 right now, and we were in this room, 1960, and you were black, you'd be drinking out of a different water fountain than the white people. Why? Well, there was a collective belief, unbelievably, I know to all of us, I get that, but this is 1960. There's a collective belief that says, if you're black, you're not as good as someone who's white. It's crazy, it's criminal, it's insane, we all get that now. But the ripple effect, as we all know, has gone on for many years, which is probably why we just now got our first African American president. It took that long to overcome this, right? The ripple effects can be devastating. Be sure you're right. Let me give you that's like a macro example, and it's kind of a negative one, but this is like a micro example. I take the water, and I take the cup, and I just pour the water into the cup. And then I ask you a question. I say, critical thinking question. True or false, the water is in the cup? And you say, okay, you just saw me pour the water, right? And I just turn the cup over. And there's no water. Now you just saw me pour it into the cup, but it's not there. Remember, it's easy to be wrong. Double check your premises before you adopt a new belief. It's really easy to be wrong. 250 million people wrong about black and white and all the rest of that crazy stuff. 250 million people. Yikes. That's a lot of people.